Okay, let's talk about an increasingly serious life and death problem. Access to affordable, nutrient-rich food. The world's arable land is limited and under constant pressure. Population growth, industry, climate change, take your pick of threats. But a growing number of people think nature itself has already provided a solution in the form of insects. Billions of people around the world eat them. And granted, the idea hasn't exactly taken off here in North America, but even so, there's potential for insects as a source of high-quality protein for animals. Think livestock. And as Briar Stewart discovered, for Canadian farmers looking to save money, this fix seems to crawl right out of the woodwork.
Hey, Toast! Who's hungry?
At Caspian Acres, there's a menagerie of mouths to feed. There's chickens, ducks, and guinea fowl. They roam alongside a rather proud turkey and everything else that's farmed here.
Sheepies!
The sheep and pigs are more than content with the tubs of fruit, veggies, and restaurant waste tossed their way. But when Alas Bali Mohammed and his wife Anastasia
Hey, guys!
expanded their brood of birds, it hit their bottom line.
Who's hungry?
When we started raising ducks and chickens on the farm, we realized quickly that we weren't making any money selling the duck eggs and chicken eggs because all the feed cost was so high.
They were having to buy a protein feed that contained soy, but the cost was threatening to derail their whole dream of running a sustainable farm.
Yeah, here's a vitamins.
Alas, whose background is in computer science, looked for a solution, and he found one in a fly. Well, actually, in its larva.
Here is a tray with a whole bunch of eggs on it. So there's hundreds of thousands of larvae in this little section.
These are all eggs.
These are all eggs. So that is just over half a gram.
They can be seen more clearly under a microscope.
Here we have a whole bunch of flies that are turning into prepupae.
Once they hatch, they become larvae and are high in protein. Perfect food for his hungry birds.
So how much trial and error has there been to get to this point?
Tons and tons of trial and error. I've had them fail in about every possible way that it could fail.
These larvae come from the black soldier fly, an insect that needs to be in a warm, humid environment. In his first few attempts, the flies died. Once he got the temperature right, there was another issue. The flies wouldn't mate.
Some people on the internet were saying that if you play some type of music, then they start mating more. I tried that. Actually, just wanted to see if it's true, but I didn't.
What music did you play?
I played a lot of disco and a lot of dance music.
Was not doing it for the flies.
No, they weren't into it.
Thankfully, the flies ended up sorting that part out on their own, and Aras is now a full-fledged bug farmer, albeit on a much smaller scale than what's happening in Langley, BC.
So here we have our Enterra grubs product. So as you can see, it's just the whole larvae dried, nothing added to it.
These millions of larvae are destined to be turned into feed, and Enterra is one of the world's largest companies betting on the black soldier fly.
I think it's the greatest thing in the world.
And Victoria Leung came on board after responding to an ad on Craigslist that asked prospective hires if they wanted to change the world.
There's limited resources on this planet. There's only so much arable land we have to grow crops and food for people. There's only so much water that we can utilize. And so I think it's really important that the world is looking for more sustainable ways of growing our food.
And how do the larvae help with that? Well, for one, they grow really quickly.
Their life cycle from egg to when they're ready to be harvested is about 3 weeks. And in that time, they grow 1,000,000% of their weight.
They are voracious eaters. Just watch as the larvae tear apart this hamburger. At Enterra, they're fed mountains of produce. Most of these fruit and vegetables still look great, but by the time they make it to the grocery store shelf, they'll be past their prime. So what would end up in the garbage gets trucked here instead. The larvae don't need any water and take up very little space before they're turned into feed for pets, poultry, and fish.
It's about 40% protein, 40% fat.
And the company is hoping one day also you and I.
We see that as being the holy grail. We think we're probably a few more years out of it than we'd like, but we've certainly seen the trend for insects take off in the human food market.
Caspian acres, they haven't snacked on the larvae themselves yet, but they feed them to their ducklings and all the other birds. But there's no large industrial operation here.
These ones were baked in the oven for a low temperature, kind of dry them out slowly. And then some of them are just strained through material to try to get excess moisture out of it.
You just put these kind of like on a cookie sheet?
Exactly. Just like you would granola. Yeah. Instead of granola, they're bugs.
And they get the food to feed the bugs from the local food bank, which has a program to help cut down on food waste.
So here's an example of a bin. We fill up the truck every second day, and this whole food will last about 1 day. The farm will use it up. So this is the black soldier fly frass, basically their poop.
As for all the waste the larvae produce, well, that gets used too in compost.
We always kind of wanted the farm to be a combination of different animals and wanted to make everything kind of work together. So when we looked at it and we sort of started reading it, it felt like missing puzzle piece.
And now that they've overcome all of the challenges in raising and harvesting the larvae, they're thinking about becoming breeders so they can help others learn the basics of farming bugs.
Who's hungry?
Briar Stewart, CBC News, near Kamloops.